still, man. It's tough.
And so one of the topics that's been coming up amongst the most aggrieved fans is fire Shanahan. This fucking alleged genius. Get rid of him. I'm not of the camp that says fire Shanahan. Are you of the camp that says fire Shanahan?
No.
So
I mean, I get it. Go on. Sorry.
So I pose a different question because I
Okay.
figured, I just knew you wouldn't be that person. But my question tonight, what would it take? What is the situation forecasting the future? Where would the line be drawn? What would it take to fire Kyle Shanahan?
I think anytime you lose a locker room, that becomes a thing. But look, man, if this is all contingent on what the next era of 49ers football looks like, right? Because no great coach, even like Bill Belichick, Andy Reid with the Chiefs. We're watching the Chiefs right now undergo a different era of Chiefs football. They're just still really freaking good, right? Like now they're a defense first team that's dragging its offense along after they were an offense first team that was dragging its defense along. Like we've seen that change kind of be undergone in real time. We have to see the same with the 49ers now. They've had basically the same kind of MO for the last 5 years, and the names have changed and the players have changed, and they bring in Christian McCaffrey, and obviously they're different in some ways, but for the most part, they've largely been the same style of team. Now it needs to adapt. They need to change. They need to evolve. And I think Kyle Shanahan is the right guy to have that evolution with, but to me, it's okay. What does next year look like? And if next year, let's say they finish, let's go to 8-9. Let's say they finish under 500 this year. They're 8-9, and then next year they go 7-10, 8-9 again. That's when I think the seat gets hot, and that's where I think going into. So I think he gets 25, and if 25 doesn't go well, I think he goes into 26 needing to show a pretty significant improvement right away. And if not, that's when I think they start thinking about making those changes. But you got to remember, man, like the Jim Harbaugh thing, I think really, I can say bad words, right?
Oh, that's one of the best parts of the show.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure because my brain wants to say really fucked with Jed York, and it did. I don't think he wants to go through that again because remember, Harbaugh had the 3 really great years, had one mediocre season where they go 8-8, and he gets fired. And then the next 2 years were a disaster. And then they hire Kyle Shanahan, and even Kyle Shanahan's first year was a mess. They started 1-10. That I don't think that's something that Jed York wants to deal with again. So I think he's going to have probably a longer leash than normal. And again, if Kyle Shanahan loses the locker room at any point here, I'll change my tune on that. But we had Kyle Juszczyk on Candlestick Chronicles, and I asked him what made Kyle Shanahan a good coach. And he said that he's a player's coach in the way that he is like sees you as a person, but is also holding people accountable. And he's demanding, but he's demanding of himself too. And players can hold him accountable. And that's why I think you see Deommodore Lenoir signing the contract he signed. I think that's why you see Brandon Ayuk, I mean, really deep down wanting to stay in San Francisco. Like I think these guys like playing for Kyle Shanahan. When that's not the case, then I think they'll make a change. If they can't evolve past whatever this version of 49ers football is, then they'll make a change. But it's not happening right now because they had one down year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's funny you bring up the Chiefs because there's really only one time the core memory I have of a team firing a coach where I just thought in my head, you shouldn't have done that, was Philadelphia and Andy Reid. And when you look at those seasons, the last, basically like the way it trickled down was in 2009, they had an 11-5 season, lost in the wild card to the Cowboys. 2010, they went 10-6, lost in the wild card to the Packers. And then in 2011, they went 8-8. The year after is when they went 4-12, and they said, "We're done."
Yeah,
I could see if the team misses the playoffs this year, I think the front office could effectively come together and say, special teams error this, injury that, XYZ. They could they
Mhm.
could point to enough circumstantial moments throughout the season where they could say, we were still one of the highest ranked offenses in passing, in rushing, in defense.
Mhm.
Even in defense, surprise, surprise. I think people are a little hard on the defense, but trust me, there's a lot worse in this league. And yet
For sure.
these are the reasons that we can trace with a fine point ball pen that says this is what went wrong. I don't think they
Mhm.
will have that same luxury in the following season if they go something like 4-12. Although I think they might have one chance to explain themselves, and if it's a worthy explanation, maybe they could. It just, to me, there are a lot of shades of Andy Reid here, and I know
Mhm.
a lot of fans are saying, cut him, get him out of here. Kyle Shanahan, it's not working anymore. I promise you, with every fiber of my fucking being, you will watch Kyle Shanahan hoist the Super Bowl trophy with a different fucking team on his shirt if you let
Mhm.
him go. Don't do it. That's my position.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think the other important thing with Andy Reid too is they lost that Super Bowl in '04, right? The next year they went 6-10 and missed the playoffs. And then the next year they went to the playoffs again at 10-6, and then they missed the playoffs again, and then he was still the coach. And then they went to playoffs 3 years in a row. They lost in the wild card round those 2 years, and that was where you picked up. So it's not like they were in the playoffs and running to the conference title game or the Super Bowl every single year. They missed the playoffs a couple times because stuff happens. Now, if they go 5-12 next year with the same roster and it's just clear that there's no innovation and Kyle Shanahan's not pushing the right buttons, then okay, let's have a different conversation. But right now, to me, this year is not is Kyle Shanahan having his best season as a coach? Like, no. Are there things that I think he's not done great? Like, for sure, he's definitely not perfect, but they're not in a point where they're gonna move on from him because this has just been a catastrophic season and it's all his doing. There's way too many things you can point to that are not Shanahan related.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
I also agree with Jen there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, I think that perhaps people aren't willing to tango in the nuance of these situations. Everything is so hot takey lately. It's either
Of
he's
course.
gone or keep him. And I love a good fucking comma. You know what I mean? Yes, but, or give you a litany of reasons, but there's also this. Like, allow me to elaborate, if you will, but unfortunately, not enough characters or attention span on social media these days.
Sure.
So you defer to podcasts such as this.